Hello everybody. My goodness, back again already. A lot of stuff coming in. My goodness. Before I get into the clarification that I need to make on the UK Supreme Court case, I just want to mention that our dear friend Atlantis has given an interview to a journalist, and he is mentioned in an article with Jason Wynn, and I will put the link down below to that article. Unfortunately, they're wanting you to subscribe in order to get the article, and so I've got a screenshot here of Atlantis, where they mention Atlantis, and he gives a little bit of his history. And I know there's been a lot of speculation about who he is, and even some have said it's a conglomeration of several PMOs, but this will help. Okay, if you scroll down to the subheading, Atlantis and Judas. In 2016, talking about Wynn and O'Donnell, in 2016 they were sent a document called the Mega File. We call it the Beast. It was a gigantic PDF containing hundreds of letters and documents from the early 1900s to the modern day. It had been compiled by one elderly apostate who, in the style of many within the religion, goes only by the name of Atlantis. Atlantis's twin brother had died in 1979 and had asked him to make one promise: to expose the religion's sins. From his position as an assistant to a circuit overseer, a kind of bishop of the Jehovah's Witnesses, he had access to a swath of documents that showed the internal workings of the church's leadership. Through the 1970s and 1980s, he would grab what documents he could, stuff them into his shirt, and race to the public library to copy them. There were letters showing all kinds of wrongdoing, including extensive evidence of child molestation. Wynn spent months pulling the file apart. So did I. And I mean, I still find stuff in there that it's like, oh my God, I didn't know he had these in here. Extracting confidential documents and posting them to his blog. These were precisely the kind of documents that the Watchtower did not want to make public. Oh, and I'm sure they would love to know who Atlantis really is. Back to the article. Indeed, in one lawsuit in the U.S. around that time, the Watchtower paid a $4,000 a day fine in defiance of a court order to hand over documents in a CSA case. The total value of the fines rose to $2 million before, in February of 2018, the church finally settled the case out of court. That was a biggie. That was in California, if I remember correctly. What the Watchtower didn't know was that during the summer of 2017, a young Jehovah's Witness in Massachusetts, who, like Atlantis, goes by an assumed name, Judas, was in the midst of a kind of crime spree with his girlfriend, who goes by the name Jezebel. And this goes on to talk how they were breaking into kingdom halls and stealing records. These documents, along with those from Atlantis' megafile, soon found their way on avoidjw.org. The website, which at once had a few hundred hits a day, suddenly surged to thousands. And that's when the Watchtower began to fight back. And it goes on to talk about lawsuits that they filed against that. And there used to be a site called Faith Leaks that had all these documents and videos and you name it. And so now I'm going to do the clarification, and then I've got some things to talk about the Montana court case too. Now, I want to thank everybody who has sent me links to all of this and all this information, and I want to thank Barbara Anderson also. She sent me the links to the first two episodes that Fox 43 was doing that investigation on Jehovah's Witnesses in Pennsylvania. Now I'm going to put the links down below because there's 3 episodes now, and I believe there are more coming. So, you know, I know it was a little confusing, and I apologize for the confusion in if there was any confusion in my video yesterday. Sometimes I get a little confused. So I'll put the link down below to this 3rd episode Path to Justice, Witness to Wicked. And fortunately, that one has over 900 views so far. Now, going to the Montana case, I have the document here. Now, this document was filed March 27, 2023, and it's document 2018-3. Now, when you scroll down to page 7 of this document, now I'm going to have these documents on our website. It's right under, on our website, I did the, where Brumley was fined by the court and Watchtower for not being entirely truthful. They have to pay 154,000 US dollars. So that document is at the top and a screenshot, and I've highlighted what I'm going to be talking about here. But underneath those documents, I have the link to all of these, the full PDF file. So, you know, you're welcome to grab those because these are public court documents. Okay? So, on page 7 of this 2018-3 document, they're talking about the clergy patent privilege, and they mention the Illinois case with Pinkava and Scott. And it's interesting because, as you can see at the top, they said that this is based on the false and unfounded assertion that the advice given in the Illinois matter was in Watchtower of New York's interest, but not the elders' interest, because Watchtower of New York has an interest in keeping child abuse within the church quiet. Okay, so that's what Watchtower is asserting. So when you go down to the next paragraph, they cite a case of Harry A., and they're talking about this court, about litigation against an organization. Now, if you skip down, it says the case doesn't apply here except to highlight that in-house counsel could have more than one client. See, they're trying to compare their legal department to this case. As pointed out above, Watchtower of New York's attorneys represent many different clients in different contexts. They represent congregations, their elders, who are, in their capacity as elders, congregation agents. Now remember that, because, you know, the publishers don't represent Watchtower. But remember, elders are congregation agents, because I'm going to bring this up here in a little bit about the UK Supreme Court clarification. Okay? And any of the corporations that were established, corporations, plural, that were established to serve the interests of Jehovah's Witnesses, the case neither establishes a requirement for elder-Watchtower agency for assertion of the attorney-client privilege nor disproves it. If Harry A. has any application here, it shows the absence of a conflict in the existence of an attorney-client relationship protected by the attorney-client privilege. Now what's interesting is down in the footnote below, as you can see, Watchtower New York believes the court in the Illinois case erred in its conclusion that the elders had a duty to report, just as the district court in Nunez versus Watchtower Bible Tract Society, which is another case going on, erred in its conclusion that elders had a duty to report. An error corrected by the Montana Supreme Court. The elders in the Illinois case chose not to appeal, however, because the punishment was so minimal, $250 fine. Yeah, but at least we all still have that conviction against them and can blast them for that one, right? Okay. And I want to thank the viewer who sent me this article from the Netherlands, and I will put the link down below. Jehovah's Witness to be prosecuted for abusing and raping a minor 20 years ago. A 48-year-old man from Assen will be prosecuted for the sexual abuse and rape of a minor within the Jehovah's Witness community. The abuse allegedly took place in the period from 1993 to 1997, the public prosecution service said. The man is also accused of committed lewd acts, and it goes on to describe some of this. And the man must appear in court later this year. The OM, Oost-Nederland, confirmed on Wednesday following earlier reports by the Dagblad van het Noorden, sorry for slaughtering that, in the context of the investigation into the alleged abuse by Jehovah's Witnesses, investigators raided the headquarters of the church organization in Emmen, several homes of religious elders, and the religion's kingdom halls in Essen and Dordrecht in 2018. The OM searched for documents from judicial committees that are organized by Jehovah's Witnesses when a member of the religious community is accused of child CSA. The Jehovah's Witnesses then filed a lawsuit accusing the government of ignoring the legal privilege of religious servants, your clergy patent privilege. The issue of legal privilege was examined by lower courts and eventually made its way to the Supreme Court. Only in specific cases when providing spiritual care to a member of the congregation do Jehovah's Witnesses have a right of non-disclosure, the court ruled. The Public Prosecution Service has returned the documents seized in this case. Even without these documents, the Public Prosecution Service is of the opinion that there is sufficient reason to submit the case to the criminal court. So even without those documents, hey, they still have their case. All right, like I said, I will put the link down below to that. Now, to clarify, the UK Supreme Court. Now, what I did, and I know it was confusing. I was a bit confused yesterday myself, because in the description, and sorry, I should have listened to the actual hearing video closer, and I should have clarified it better. In the description, that's what I read. Now, I just want to clarify that there are two parts to this appeal, okay? I have notes here, so I can get it right this time. Okay, in part one appeal, that Elder Sewell, they were trying to decide if elders are the same as an employee of a business. And remember, it mentioned, so if that employee commits a tort, a crime, is the business, aka Watchtower, vicariously responsible? So that was part one of the appeal. That appeal was upheld. He was an elder, and he was in the capacity as an elder, and they are considered employees. Now remember, when I read that from that court case earlier, they admit that they are agents of the Watchtower Bible Tract Society. So that was upheld. Now I don't totally understand UK law, so I can't, and I don't have any legal training. I'm not a lawyer, and so this is just the way I understood it, and just putting it in plain terms. Part two of that appeal, the Supreme Court disagreed with the lower court, and they are trying to find out, they're trying to decide if an elder commits a crime, was this crime, this assault, committed basically on official church business, and they could not decide on that. So it appears they are going to kick it back to the lower court, and it will have to be fought over again. So, like I said, I apologize for not clarifying it, that there was actually two parts to this appeal. One was upheld, the other one is being kicked back to the lower court. Now, this is the way we understand it. Now, we don't expect secular lawyers who have no idea about Watchtower and their policies and doctrines and all of that to understand this. But the way, instead of looking at it as a business-employee relationship, and is that employee responsible, and is the business vicariously responsible? Look at it this way. Priests and ministers, are they only priests and ministers and have the clergy penitent privilege when they're at the church and taking confessions? No, they're priests 24/7. Well, we understand elders are elders 24/7. And I got an example here. If an elder is driving by a hotel and he happens to see two Jehovah's Witnesses walking out of a hotel room who are not married to one another, is he going to say, oh, well, I'm not officially at the Kingdom Hall doing my elderly duties. I don't see this, none of my business. No. He is immediately going to go tell the other elders and form a judicial hearing and find out what was going on. Okay, now this UK case. If those elders, if you listen to the clip carefully, which I went back and listened to it, if those elders knew that this elder Sewell had already been accused twice before for assaulting two others, and the elders didn't warn this sister who was allegedly a friend of the family, a friend of, him and his wife, they should be held responsible. They should be held responsible. And Watchtower should be held responsible because they would have known about it too. If they knew Elder Sewell had done this twice before and they didn't warn anybody and they kept quiet, then they are vicariously responsible. Now, oh, well, they were at a pub after service drinking and then they went back to the Sewell house. And this is when the assault allegedly happened. Okay? Well, look at it this way. If that sister had been sitting in their living room and if she had pulled out a cigarette and lit it up, what would Elder Sewell have done? He would have chastised her and there would have immediately been a judicial hearing formed. So elders are in they're elders 24/7. And if the court understood this, they wouldn't have to decide on this and kick it back to the lower court. Because they'd already know that, just like priests and ministers, you are appointed by Holy Spirit and you are an elder 24/7. See? So, at least that's how I look at it. Now, I got an email from somebody, and they had a little thing on a forum about a circuit assembly that somebody just recently went to, and they were surprised at how empty the parking lot was. Usually you go to a circuit assembly and the parking lot is full. It's hard to find a spot. Parking lot was really empty. They go inside, a lot of empty seats. So this is good news. This is really good news. So anyway, thank you everybody so much for the comments and emails, and I appreciate it very much, and thank you for watching. And we're going to keep covering this news as it's coming out. And like I said, I apologize for any confusion about my video yesterday. And the article someone had sent me, it was just a flat out, the appeal was lost by the plaintiff and Watchtower won. And then it's like, no. And so I went back and listened to the clip. And Mike did too, and sure enough, it's like, okay, I'm going to take notes this time and clarify it, that there were actually 2 points to that appeal. And so it looks like it's not over yet. it's not over yet. It's going to be kicked back to the lower court, and hopefully the lawyer for the plaintiff will understand and bring it across that elders are not employees. They are in the same capacity as priests and ministers, which is 24/7. So it doesn't matter. They are responsible. And especially if they knew about 2 other victims. The elders and Watchtower are responsible vicariously, in my humble opinion. So you all have a wonderful weekend. Bye.